In this lesson, we are going to learn a third strategy for graphing an equation of a line. There is no one correct strategy. They are all simply strategies that you can use. You need to choose the one that makes the most sense to you. Occasionally, there is a method that will make more sense to use, but in general, any of them can be done. So what we want to do here, we have a linear equation. We want to state the y-intercept. If you think back to a few previous outcomes, we talked about finding the x-intercept. That is the place where the graph crosses the x-axis, and how we can find it. If you think about when it crosses the x-axis, it means y has a value of 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to let y equal 0, and we are going to then solve for x. So we have 2x minus 3, and we're going to let the y be 0, minus 6 equals 0. So we will have 2x minus 0 minus 6 equals 0. So 2x minus 6 equals 0. Solve for x, so we are going to add 6. We'll get 2x equals 6. Divide by 2, we are going to get x equals 3. So that is our x-intercept. Now we want to state the y-intercept. And if you think about what the y-intercept is, it's the line where the graph crosses the y-axis. At that point, x is 0. We want to let x equal 0. So we have 2 times 0 minus 3y minus 6 equals 0. 2 times 0 is 0. So we have minus 3y minus 6 equals 0. We want to solve for y, so we are going to start by adding 6. We'll have minus 3y equals 6. Now we will divide by minus 3. So we get y equals negative 2. Now what we can do is we can use the intercepts to graph the line. So at x equals 3, we put a point, and at y equals negative 2, we put a point. And now we join those values. So there's your strategy of graphing by intercepts. I guess the disadvantage to this strategy, there's a couple of them. One, if you make an error on one of the intercepts, you won't recognize it. Whereas in using table of values, if you found one incorrect coordinate, you would see that your 3 points were out of line. Or when you're doing slope-intercept form, you could run into some problems there as well, but your y-intercept is stated, and then you're just doing rise over run. But here, if you make a mistake on one of the intercepts, you won't see it because you're simply joining 2 points, and you can always put a line through 2 points. The other time when this method does not necessarily work well is when your intercepts are very small. So if you had an intercept of 1/4 and negative 1/4, those points are so close together, it's hard to get an accurate picture of what the line looks like. Or if your intercepts are really large, you would have to scale your graph accordingly, and that may end up posing some problems. But ultimately, the strategy works perfectly fine for most of the problems. Sketch each linear relation and identify the intercepts. So in this first one, y minus 3 equals 0. Now if you think back to the fact of what kind of line do you have when you only have a y variable. Hopefully you remember that that means it is a horizontal line. Y minus 3 equals 0 can be written as y equals 3, which is of the form 0x plus 3. Your slope is 0. So what we have is we have a y-intercept of 3, and we have a slope of 0, which means we have a horizontal line. Every point on that line has a y-coordinate of 3. It does not matter what x value you choose. You have a y-coordinate of 3. In B, when we have just an x variable, think about what kind of line we have. And hopefully you remember you have a vertical line. So this is like saying x equals negative 4/5. We cannot write this in the form y equals mx plus b. It doesn't make sense. Our slope is undefined. What we do is we go 4 to the left, 4.5 to the left, and we draw a vertical line. Every coordinate on that line has an x value of negative 4.5. C, y equals 0. Well, y equals 0 is going to be a horizontal line that passes through 0 on the y-axis. This is actually our x-intercept, or our x-axis line. And you have now graphed y equals 0. So if you ever just have a y variable, you will have a horizontal line. And that horizontal line will have a y-intercept of whatever value y is equal to. If you just have an x variable, we are going to have a vertical line, and it will have an x-intercept of that value that x is equal to.